Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back into another edition of Keytime Sports. Please like, comment, share, subscribe to Keytime Sports right here on YouTube. Right here on YouTube. Key City Sports on Instagram. And the key on millions.co. Here is my media feed. Here is my profile so that you will know it's me. And we are also doing merchandise on this website too. We are rolling out new merchandise all throughout 2026. The first batch of merchandise will be released this month as I am going on this website. I will start creating new designs and stuff, and at the end of this month you will see more shirts, sweaters, and you will see more hoodies at the end of this month. So, back to where it all started. Now, college football playoff semifinal game between Miami and Ole Miss. It was a doozy. It was everything that you want in a game of this magnitude. Now, one thing I want to say is that as far as the play-by-play score and the recap, it really was a tight game. And basically, when we look at time of possession, it seemed like Miami, they should have been up by 2 or 3 scores on Ole Miss by the way that they were dominating. But still, Ole Miss came to play. They kept it close. They had a chance to win it at the end. Miami, they took their chance and they did win it in the end. So Carson Beck, he was 23 of 37, 268 yards. Trinidad Chambers, 23 of 37, 277 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. Carson Beck had 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. The running game for the Miami Dolphins was good. It almost had 200 yards. It had 191 to be exact. Ole Miss running game. Keywan Lacey, he had over 100 yards for the team on Ole Miss. They had 120 yards in the running game. Then you get to their receivers for Miami. You had Keelan Marion. He had over 100 yards. Malachi Tony out of the backfield and he was receiving. He had 81 yards receiving and he had 11 yards rushing. So for a total, he had 92 yards in the game. So now, once we get to the Miami defense, now Miami's defense over the course of this game, it looked like it was sluggish. There was one time where the Miami defense gave up a big run to Keywan Lacey that was 73 yards. And I had said, okay, basically, when we get to that point in the game, I'm saying that, okay, everything, it was tight. It was still, the Miami Hurricanes were leading 3-0, and then it was 7-0. But where Ole Miss lost this game, what do I always say, America? Third down efficiency could lose you the game in turnovers. Now, Ole Miss, they were 2 of 10 on third down. They didn't go for it on fourth down, and obviously Miami's defense came to play. Do you know how many times that Ole Miss had 3 and outs in this game versus Miami? Ole Miss had 6 3 and outs in this game versus Miami. And Miami, they also had 4 3 and outs. So it was pretty much a tit for tat on defense. It was. But in the last few minutes of the game, when it came down to it, and as you can all see, you see time of possession, right? See, this is why I was saying time of possession. Miami should have won this game by at least 2 or 3 touchdowns and not just by 4 points. But obviously, those 3 and outs, the lack of efficiency on offense at times in the game, that is what hurt the Miami Hurricanes. That's what hurt the Miami Hurricanes. So now, is Ole Miss a powerhouse in the SEC? No, and I want somebody to clip that because Ole Miss, I believe that this was a one-off for Ole Miss. Ole Miss is not a powerhouse, and you got the Miami Hurricanes, one of the teams that are in the ACC. Miami, they pretty much have a good team this year. I know that some of those guys are going to get drafted in the NFL, but when it comes to the transfer portal, anybody, and I do mean anybody, can come out of nowhere and win the championship. Hell, take a look at Indiana, and I'm going to get to Indiana a little bit later on in the show. But right now, Miami's offense, they cannot have a bad day versus them Indiana Hoosiers. They can't. Now, it was quite a few plays that happened within the last 8 minutes of this game. Now here it is, last 7 minutes. This is 3rd down and goal, and I'm going to go through a rough list of what I saw, and basically this is where the game was won. So 3rd down and goal at the 4. They go back to pass. It is dropped. So Ole Miss kicks a field goal. They go up 19-17. And I'm saying to myself, okay, Miami, they can go down and get the lead because we already know that Ole Miss is going to go back and score. So Carson Beck goes down and flag Keelan Marion. He got held. A lot of people are debating whether this was a flag or not, but he did not turn around and look for the ball. That is why the penalty flag was thrown. Now, we fast forward a few plays later in this game. 2nd and 11, Malachi Tony. See, Malachi Tony is the X factor for the Miami Hurricanes offense. He's been the X factor all season for the Miami Hurricanes offense. And Miami, they are going to need a big day from him when it comes to facing Indiana. It is. Coming into this game, I already know I'm looking at the point spread going into the national championship game. When I looked at the point spread, it had Indiana favored by 7.5. Now, that was Friday night. It probably has changed since it is Monday morning. It probably has. But as of right now, the Indiana Hoosiers, they are favored in the national championship. And here is one more thing about this. Here is the play. Here's 2nd and 8 for Ole Miss. Chambliss back to pass. He throws, caught for a touchdown, and that was with 3 minutes left. 3 minutes left. They go for a 2-point conversion. They get it. Now here's the last 3 minutes of this game. Carson Beck. The last year and a half for Carson Beck, it has just been complete turmoil. Everybody thought once he left Georgia, his college career was pretty much over, but he wheeled the Miami Hurricanes down the field. And as you can see, on this 3rd and 6, when you needed this 1st down, they got it. And as you can see, Beck throws to his wide receiver. He stretches out for a 1st down. He did get the 1st down just by inches. And under a minute left. 3rd and 10, another one. Another gotta have it down. And he gets it. He throws it to Keelan Marion. So, Miami, one thing I can say about Miami, they are going to make it interesting. It's just, does Indiana Does Indiana take over this game like they've been doing versus every other opponent that they did this season? Because as you can see, Miami is just a methodical offense that just drives down the field and win once they score a touchdown, like they scored a touchdown. And I like what Carson Beck did there. Nobody, I'm going to rewind this. Everybody was covered up. You see this? Everybody was covered up. Malachi Tony covered up. Marion covered up. His tight end covered up. His wide receiver right here is covered up. He didn't have anybody to throw to, but a huge opening came up. He ran it in, and that is why. And as you can see, they broke it down again. Nobody was open. Carson Beck runs the ball in for a touchdown, and this was pretty much a game-sealing touchdown. Everything that Carson Beck has went through for a moment right there, this is why the Miami Hurricanes paid him what they paid him. Now, as you can see, he still had trouble with the interceptions and stuff. He cannot throw any interceptions versus Indiana. If you throw interceptions versus Indiana, that might be it. So Miami has got to be on their P's and Q's. Now, going down the field, Ole Miss got it down to the 34-yard line. 35-yard line, excuse me. This was the last play of the game. As you can see, Chambliss back to pass. He gives his receivers time. A lot of people say that this was a pass interference in the end zone, but there was a lot of hand fighting between the defensive guy and the wide receiver. So when you get to that point, the referee, he is not going to call that. He's not going to call that no matter what, no matter how one fan base is feeling and no matter how another fan base is feeling. He is not going to call that. So Miami is going to the national championship game. The next game I'm going to cover, oh my goodness, this was a thorough annihilation, evisceration, eradication, or whatever kind of adjective you want to use. That's exactly what it was with the Indiana Hoosiers and the Oregon Ducks. You had Dante Moore, 24 of 39, 285 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Fernando Mendoza. Now, Fernando Mendoza, he is a decent quarterback. He's just very efficient. He didn't throw the ball that much. He was only 17 of 20, 177 yards, 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Very efficient. The running game for Indiana, it was 185 yards. The running game for Oregon was 93 yards. Now, here's one thing. This game was pretty much a blowout. I called this game early as far as in my reaction video, as far as my slide Friday night. And as you can see, third down efficiency, Indiana was 11 of 14. Oregon was 8 of 13. Now, any type of scenario, 8 of 13 in most games on third down wins you the game. But when you have turnovers and fumbles like the Oregon Ducks did, obviously you're going to put yourself behind the 8 ball. And as you can see, Indiana, as far as time of possession, they didn't dominate in time of possession. They had 31 minutes time of possession for Indiana to Oregon's 28 minutes. And like I said, the stats don't tell how bad this game was. These clips will. These clips will tell how bad the game was. The first play of the game, I'm going to just fast forward to the first play of the game. First play of the game, interception by Dante Moore, and it was basically downhill from there. Basically downhill. And as you can see, you get to, okay, we get to the 11-minute mark of this highlight clip. Fernando Mendoza, no pressure, nothing at all. He was able to run and score. He did fumble, but his offensive lineman got the ball back. See, there's one thing that I can say about Indiana. Indiana is a well fine-tuned scoring machine. See, this is when I basically called the game because it was 42-7 at this point. And as you can see, I really don't like calling blowouts. Y'all know me. I'd rather see a very, very close game and see somebody lose it at the end when everybody had a chance. Now, this was the biggest play that Oregon had all night in the game. Biggest play that Oregon had all night. But it was just way too little, way too late. It was. Now, you see where the Oregon Ducks, they scored a touchdown, but the game was pretty much firmly in hand. And this was when the Indiana Hoosiers scored another touchdown, and it was 49-15. Now, there is one thing that I would like to say about this matchup. And I'm going to do a preview on the national championship a little bit later on in the week, or maybe next Monday morning. Because from what I see an Indiana team. You have a high-powered offense and you have a good defense. And I see a Miami offense that is sometimes hit and miss. And Miami has a good defense. But I believe that there's just something. This game is going to be close no matter what. No matter what everybody saw Indiana do versus Oregon right here, it is not going to look that way versus the Miami Hurricanes in the national championship. It isn't. It's not. So this was pretty much a quick show. I already knew that this was gonna be a quick show because we had one blowout on the docket, and the other game, Miami versus Ole Miss, it was a close game. So the national championship, we got the Indiana Hoosiers and we got the Miami Hurricanes. Now, the Indiana Hoosiers are trying to do something that no team hasn't done since 1894, and that is go 16-0, have an undefeated season. But obviously, that all remains to be seen, America. That all remains to be seen. And so, as for that, those are my reactions to the college football playoff semifinal games between Miami Hurricanes and the Ole Miss Rebels. Also, the Indiana Hoosiers and the Oregon Ducks. Please like, comment, share, subscribe to Keytime Sports right here on YouTube. Key City Sports on Instagram. The Key on Millions.co. We have new merchandise. We are going to have new merchandise on Millions.co. We have hoodies, shirts. We are also going to have more sweaters. We are rolling out new merchandise all year long. And at the end of this month, we are going to have new merchandise on Millions.co. So please, 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 please follow everything. Please follow me on Millions.co and every one of my social media platforms. Here is my profile so that you will know it's me. And remember, everybody, one last thing. The key is always on time.